The elderly man walked into his bank with confidence. This was the same bank he had been using for over 40 years, a place where he had deposited his hard-earned money, saved for his retirement, and built a relationship with the staff. But today, something was different. The young teller at the counter glanced at him with skepticism, her expression cold and dismissive. When he handed over his withdrawal slip, she barely looked at it before shaking her head. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't process this transaction," she said flatly. Confused, the elderly man, Mr. Harrison, furrowed his brows. "What do you mean? This is my account. I've been banking here for decades." The teller exhaled sharply, tapping at her computer screen. "I understand that, sir, but there's an issue with your account. I can't authorize this withdrawal." Mr. Harrison felt the eyes of the people in the bank turning toward him. Some customers looked away uncomfortably, others whispered among themselves. He wasn't just being denied his money, he was being humiliated. And that's when he realized, they thought he was just an old man. Someone who wouldn't fight back. But they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Before we continue, if you enjoy stories like this that expose injustice and reveal surprising twists, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more powerful stories to life. Now, let's get back to what happened next. Mr. Harrison took a deep breath. "I'd like to speak to the bank manager," he said firmly. The teller hesitated but then called over a man in a crisp suit, his name tag reading, "Mr. Dawson, branch manager." The manager approached with a forced smile. "Is there a problem here?" "Yes," Mr. Harrison said. "I've been a customer here for over 40 years, and suddenly, I'm being told I can't withdraw my own money. I'd like to know why." Mr. Dawson's smile thinned. "Well, sir, we have certain security protocols, and your transaction triggered a flag in our system. For your safety, we can't release the funds without further verification." Mr. Harrison narrowed his eyes. "I have my ID, my account number, and all the necessary details. What more verification do you need?" The manager adjusted his tie uncomfortably. "Unfortunately, sir, our policy states that we must follow procedure. Perhaps you can come back another day?" That was the moment Mr. Harrison knew something was seriously wrong. He wasn't just being denied his money, he was being stalled. And he had a very good idea why. Mr. Harrison took a deep breath, keeping his composure. "Then let me understand this correctly," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You're telling me that despite my identification, my account history, and the fact that I've been banking here for over 4 decades, I suddenly can't access my own money?" The manager shifted uncomfortably. "It's just a precaution, sir." "A precaution?" Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow. "For what, exactly?" The manager hesitated, glancing at the teller as if searching for the right words. "There have been cases of fraud involving elderly customers. We just want to ensure your safety." A few customers nearby exchanged glances. A woman whispered to her husband. "Fraud? Safety?" It didn't sound right. Mr. Harrison let out a slow chuckle, shaking his head. "Let me guess. If I were a younger man in a suit, withdrawing a larger amount, there would be no precaution, would there?" Silence. The manager's expression tightened, but he didn't answer. "And yet," Mr. Harrison continued, "I haven't received a single phone call, email, or letter about my account having any issues. No warnings, no security checks. But the moment I show up in person, suddenly there's a problem?" More whispers. The tension in the room grew thick. The manager cleared his throat. "Sir, if you could just step aside, we'll investigate further. But for now, I can't process your request." Mr. Harrison exhaled, but his eyes stayed sharp. He could see the game they were playing. "All right," he said, nodding. "If that's how you want to handle it." Then, with a calm that sent a chill through the air, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his phone and, with a few taps, dialed a number. The manager watched in growing concern as Mr. Harrison spoke into the phone. "Yes, it's me. I need you to check something for me." "No, I'm at the bank right now." The room had gone eerily silent. The other customers were pretending not to listen, but their ears were tuned in. Even the tellers had stopped their work to watch the scene unfold. A few moments later, the bank's front doors swung open, and two sharply dressed individuals walked in. One of them was a woman in a navy blue suit, her expression unreadable. The other was a man in a dark blazer, carrying a briefcase. Mr. Dawson's face paled. "Mr. Harrison, what is this?" Mr. Harrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Meet my lawyers." The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. The woman in the suit stepped forward and handed Mr. Dawson a document. "This is a legal notice," she said coolly. "Mr. Harrison is not only a longtime client of this bank, he is also a major shareholder. He owns a significant percentage of this institution, and we have reason to believe that there may be fraudulent activity happening under your management." The room exploded into whispers. The other customers now looked at Mr. Harrison with a mix of shock and admiration. The old man they had dismissed as just another retiree was actually one of the most powerful people in the building. Mr. Dawson stammered, flipping through the documents. This must be a misunderstanding." Mr. Harrison crossed his arms. "No misunderstanding. I came in today as a regular customer, and you treated me like an inconvenience. Worse, you tried to block access to my own funds. Now, I have to wonder, how many other customers have been denied their rightful money under your watch?" The woman in the suit nodded. "We'll be conducting a full audit of this branch. If we find any irregularities, there will be consequences." Mr. Dawson gulped. I assure you, we follow all policies correctly." Mr. Harrison chuckled. "We'll see about that." Suddenly, the entire bank seemed to shift. The employees, once so confident in dismissing an elderly man, now stood rigid, their faces pale with realization. The customers, who had once looked away, now watched with newfound respect. And then, as if nothing had happened, Mr. Harrison extended his hand toward the teller. "Now, about that withdrawal." The teller's hands shook as she quickly processed the transaction. "Here you go, sir," she said meekly, sliding the cash across the counter. Mr. Harrison took his money, then turned to face the manager one last time. "You might want to start looking for a new job," he said. "Something tells me you won't be managing this bank much longer." With that, he walked out, his lawyers following behind. The customers stared after him, knowing they had just witnessed something incredible, a man who refused to be disrespected, who fought back against injustice, and who made them regret underestimating him instantly. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something similar? Let us know below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.